and welcome to another episode of Tough Talk. Today I've got a panelist of three incredible ladies, and we're going to be discussing women empowerment. So I've got here Sarah, Jocelyn, and Linda. So the conversation today is about women empowerment and let's say throughout history how the role a woman has played within the household and within the family. So culturally or traditionally, African women have been placed as the housewife generally, and we're getting to a point where now a lot of us women are branching out. The new African woman is branching out. We're now becoming breadwinners of the household. Sometimes we're the one who provide for the whole family. So I guess my question to start off the conversation is, how do you think our tradition has played a role in how women are seen in society today?
In how women are seen
in society, African women are seen in society today.
I suppose, like, for me, there's always been the notion that the man is supposed to provide, and that's taking it back to, you know, men like actually basically being the warriors and that kind of thing, and women raising the village basically. So that has played a big part, but I think as well, most of us come from countries that were colonized, and even in white tradition, men have always been dominant. So that's probably why it is the way it is.
Jocelyn?
For me, I feel like if you look at our parents' generation, for example, it's always the man who's the provider of the family. And so, like, I know in my village, the men actually are not supposed to do anything in the house at all, even let alone brothers at all. So it's also, if let's say you have 10 kids and 2 girls and like 8 boys, those 2 girls are expected to do everything for the family. So you have to like do your brother's chores and clothing and food and everything. And on top of that, you still have the responsibility to your parents as well and to look after them. So it gets a bit hard on the girls in the family. So
it's a lot.
Yeah, no, it is. So for me, going from what the 2 ladies here said, I totally agree with that. That's how it is in my country and how people are, but we are actually branching out of that. Us younger ones mostly.
Yeah, our generation.
Not the older ones, they're still stuck on that mentality. But I think it's a great thing that we're all, we're taking that step forward to kind of break that cycle of, you know, just being, not really thinking much of yourself. I think that's what it is, not having ambition, because now we're out here all studying or doing something productive at least. And
we're in a different place as well.
When you actually say you said something about, I guess, thinking more about yourself as an individual, and I think like with Black women, there's always this thing that's taught to us that we are the ones who are to sacrifice on behalf of everyone.
You always have to give up something of your own so everybody else
can be happy and make everyone else comfortable.
I think that's wrong.
So
no, it's the whole women empowerment thing, or the conversation we're having today, is when you look at our history and a lot of our cultures, we have a lot of similarities there in the way that the man is the breadwinner. And I think when we're getting to a point of women empowerment, a lot of us are branching out. We still need the man to be the lead. In some ways, I think we can all agree that we still want a head of the family, but we just want
a bit of responsibility taken away from us.
We just want
I'm not sure I understand that. So when you say the man being the head,
when I say the head, like he's the protector, like he has that dominant approach. You still want that dominancy
like
from
figure.
a man.
I mean, I still want a man to be a man, but I do believe in a house of
equality.
Equality,
yes,
definitely. That's the point I'm trying to get across. Because I think a lot of us women, as much as we do want equality in a lot of things, but I personally feel like I still need a man to be a man. And it's very important. It's very important in the society that we're in, and the fact that a lot of us are branching out. Like, let's say with our mums and our grandmothers and the way they were treated. Like, I know certainly from my culture and the village that my family's from, the woman, the father would go farming, and the woman takes over of the household. She's expected to clean, cook, and make sure everything is there. And even now, today in our own house, my mom will go to work, my dad will go to work, and she will come and clean and do everything. My dad will do the backyard and everything else like that. So I guess a lot of times our families are now, let's say, picking the good and adding into their own home.
So you sort of compromise.
Yeah, compromising. I think compromising is very important. So my next question now is regarding women women empowerment, how can we achieve that within our communities and amongst ourselves?
For me, a big thing, and I guess because I come from a background of education, is education is foremost. There's a quote that says education is the great equalizer, and basically I think that when women are educated, they're given the opportunity to choose what kind of lifestyle they have, and I think that's what like being empowered is having that choice. So if you choose to be a mother who stays at home, that's if you're making that choice, it's an empowered decision. And if you're
not
choosing,
forced upon to
exactly
be
right.
like this, like a housewife, for example.
And if you're choosing to be a full-time career woman, basically empowerment is about choice. So I think when someone is educated, they have the ability to decide what it is they want to do or what kind of life they want to live.
I like that.
Yeah.
What about you, Jocelyn?
In terms of
how can we empower ourselves and the ones behind us, the ones in front, the ones behind us?
I feel like for our generation, it's important to sort of educate our parents as well, not only just for our sake, but for the sake of the future generations. Because I know, for example, some fathers, they will never allow their wives to, let's say, go to school or study because they don't want that the wife to sort of become senior of them. So you have this situation where a male is just made to be the provider because they're the senior, and the woman just has to stay at home. And so because a lady had never had the opportunity to sort of go to study and sort of make a life for themselves and make their own decisions, they sort of have no choice but to be a housewife, for example. And then so that sort of compromises the whole situation. And so it makes it harder for her children as well, because she doesn't really understand how can she educate the future generation
if she's not educated
she's not educated herself.
Right.
So it becomes a barrier for the kids and so on. So
Definitely. What about you,
great.
Sarah?
Going from your education point about educating parents and whatnot, I think that's a great thing. But you do also see parents that weren't educated.
that's true.
Pushing their kids.
That's
And it's kind of like they taking what they didn't have.
They missed out on something, so
they
they want the
missed out,
kids
so they
to have
really
it.
push their kids to have
Yeah.
that. And that really
I
does
think
show that.
that whole thing is like, especially with there are a lot of black women of, say, my mom's generation who didn't get to go to uni and that kind of thing. But there's this sense of value, and that's where it comes from, is the self-esteem. And when black women value themselves, they then decide that, I'm worth more. You don't necessarily have to be educated to realize that you're worth
Of course.
more. So,
And going back to your point as well, I think empowerment really depends on how you define it for yourself. To everybody, it means something different. It could mean staying at home, sacrificing that part of your life where, like a job or whatever you used to do, to stay home,
family,
or sacrificing that part of your life being family and actually
And doing
working.
double both.
So I think that's
doing
great.
double,
For me, empowerment means putting myself first.
And your
No matter
family
what.
as well.
Well, myself. Well, like when I do have a family, but
of
now
course.
as an individual, I don't have kids.
I
no
actually
nothing.
have to say, I'm sorry, but like that whole putting yourself first thing, I 100% believe in that. And my dad actually used to say, oh, you're a bit Western in that regard because, it's community. comes first. But I honestly believe that good parents are parents who take care of themselves first.
That's true.
And I think that's where the issue with black women always sacrificing their well-being. And then, because they have to look after the family, but quite often they don't realize, if I take care of myself, I'm a better mother to my children.
You're more awake.
Wife.
You're more not even just awake as in getting out of bed, but physically,
Mentally,
more energized to to just keep going, I guess. And I think that's great.
No, that's definitely true in regards of taking care of ourselves first, or allowing our mothers to take care of themselves first. Because for the period that we've been in Australia, my mum, when she had my younger brother, she gained a lot of weight, and her doctor told her that you're going down the wrong path if you don't change your life. So ever since then, my mom has been living a healthier, active life where even though she cares about us, but she prioritizes her health more. And she's like, my mental well-being and my physical well-being is just as important as yours.
Exactly right.
So she prioritizes, she takes time for herself, goes to the spa, goes to the gym, just 1 hour, 2 hours away from the home just so she can re-energize herself. She's like, I have been a mother my whole life, basically.
It's time for her to live a little bit as well.
She's like, 40 is the new 30. That's her motto. So she's going with that mentality and she's pushing forward. And I think a lot of the way we can empower ourselves is to have open conversations about these things. Let our women know that you're not obligated to just be a housewife. Or if that's what you want, that's fine. Once it's a choice you're making on your own. But just having open conversations and allowing the girls behind us know that there's other means out
There's
there.
options as well.
There's other options. And even, let's say, those who are back home who are living a less fortunate life, let's say because of poverty and illnesses and everything else like that. For people in those situations, empowerment will be hard to be enforced.
Yeah, because they don't know where they're going to get the information from.
It's not just that, it's just that, but when you're hungry, you don't have shelter, you would not be thinking about empowerment. It's not your priority. It's the last thing on your mind. And like when someone comes and tells you that, don't let your husband talk to you like this, but he's the one feeding you.
He's the provider of
He's
the
the
family,
provider of the house. So I guess when it comes to empowerment, education is very important, but it all depends on where you are and the circumstances you're in. Yeah. Because for those of us overseas or abroad, we have a more fortunate life where I guess we've got a lot of options around us. Yeah. But for somebody who's grown up in poverty and necessarily got married so her family can, her mom and dad can sustain themselves.
She's going to stay in that situation
so
because it's benefiting her.
It's benefiting her family. And she cannot live, let's say, a violent household because the man has paid for her bride price. Yeah. So when it comes to women empowerment, there's a lot of gray areas in there, and it all depends on where you are. And I think as time goes on, just educating ourselves more and having more open conversations, that will definitely lead the way. Yeah. My next question is, let's say for when we see black women take leading positions, how does that make us feel? Because I think recently we had the first African migrant
senator,
Lucy. So for a lot of us, I think that was a great achievement there when we saw one of our own up on a podium like that. It gave us a sense of pride.
Yeah, of course.
It's like our people, like
someone sort of representing us in the public
because I think especially here in Australia, we don't see ourselves in the media like that, and we don't see ourselves in a public office. I don't think do we even have a lot of black senators or black
leaders
or black leaders
CEOs,
in high positions here in Australia. We do back home because that's where we're dominant. But when you are what's the word?
Minority.
When you're a minority in a different country, it's hard for you to see your own kind up on a big podium. So when Lucy got the position, I think it was a great achievement for all of us. Now my question there is, how does that make you feel, and how does that push you to achieve your dream? Because with the feeling you got seeing her in power, does it motivate you in one way to pursue your dream so those behind you can be as motivated as you are when you saw her grab her position?
I think on a personal level, I look at her and I'm like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But I also have this thing where when we're in a society where we're minorities, there's always that one black person who almost speaks for everyone, and I find that quite unfortunate. You know, for example, Yasmin is another one who's really prominent.
She's lovely.
So basically, it's like that one person is supposed to represent
the whole community
of people. So whilst what Lucy's doing is great, for me, she's just another role model. I would look at anyone else that way, but I think for that's probably just the headspace I'm in. But for the majority of young black women, it's important for them to see role models like that, because I guess that's how you believe that you're able to do something as well. But yeah, for me, I just think that it's great. But yeah, I mean, I think that we need to not be represented by singular people, because one person cannot speak for an entire community.
That's right.
That's true.
For me, it gave me a little bit of hope in terms of, it's so great to see one of our own stand up on the podium and sort of, represent the African community in a sense, so especially for the younger generations. They tend to give up, especially due to racism in schools and all that. So if they can see someone of the same color up there, so it sort of gives them that little bit of a drive to say, okay, I can also do it. One day I may be able to stand up there and do what she's doing. It may not be in the exact same field, but sort of gives you a direction to go. So I think it's a good thing.
What about you, Sarah?
I think it's great. When I saw it, I was like, oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah, but going back to what Linda said, one person can't represent a whole group of people, and that's why we need to get more people out there. But living in Australia here, there's just so many distractions that younger generations and the young ones don't actually want to focus in school as much as our parents tell us, oh, we brought you here to
study, get a future.
Everything else gets in the way, and kids are actually forgetting about that.
And like when it comes to the whole conversation on education, you can get educated. There's different means of getting education, and that's what in our communities we need to start advocating for and letting people know university is not the only way for you to get educated. Because you can take internships, you can work. There's so many other
avenues that you can do apart from university.
Apart from going to university, because like university is not for everybody. That whole box concept, we all don't fit into it. So we have to understand. We have to understand that. It's not a one size fits all.
We need to encourage other pathways.
Yeah, we need to encourage other pathways and everything, because when we do that, because when you're talking about distractions, like right now, look at social media and the power that's playing within our communities. Everybody's a makeup artist now. Everybody is a relationship guru. Or like, I think, because it's the business our generation is in at the moment, social media plays
a big role in our lives.
Such a big role in our daily life, because that's where a lot of us get business concepts from. We get ideas from. We interact with people with similar intentions or similar motives as us, so we can get to where we want to get to in life. So when it comes to distractions that we're facing, there is a lot, and I think we just have to find a way where we're able to focus on what we need to do, or like teach ourselves to keep our minds on what we need to do. There are going to be distractions. There's no life without distractions. We are going to hit a couple bumps here and there, but that's part of growing. That's part of developing. And I guess that the older generation has to understand that the path that they've walked is not the same we're going to walk.
Because they have this expectation that let's say they've all gone to uni, you need to do the same. Or let's say your parents didn't get to go to uni, you must have to go, because they missed for them kind of thing. So
I remove the shame from my name kind of thing.
But I got one more thing to add to that. We do suffer from groupthink. So for example, one person goes to uni, tries to venture, swim against the current type of thing. Oh, so you think you're better than us?
Yeah, so there's
when you're in
we
that
limit
environment,
ourselves in a sense as well.
Sometimes people hold themselves back because of what everybody else is doing around them.
And it's a dangerous game. It's dangerous concepts to play with, because what that does, you limit yourself from achieving your goals because of the groupthink. Like a lot of us come from families where education is a key. Like in my household, we don't play with it. My dad, that's the only option. Like kind of thing. He's installed that in us that I don't care what you do, but just study, because education opens your minds and changes your perspective on things. You're able to challenge, you're able to have intellectual conversations, and you're able to feel confident in yourself when you go out in the world, knowing that, yes, I do know what I'm talking about. It gives you a sense of confident purpose when you're out there in the world. And with saying that, I guess our families need to understanding as well that it's not just university anymore.
There are other options.
There's colleges, there's TAFE, there's all these different
we need to encourage kids to. Some kids are interested in arts, for example. And then African parents have this mentality: if you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, if you're not doing music, for example, you don't have a career. So, and then you have kids who sort of hold themselves back. They may really want to go in this path because their parents told them. So they sort of hold back, and they may be really good at it. They may have a great future, but they'll never know because we have that sort of limitation there from the parents.
I mean, when it comes to the music thing, you can't be a 35-year-old man.
That's right.
Hold your like, you didn't think about this when you were 18.
Okay, no, that part I
didn't find your calling.
You didn't do it now. I think we all get our calling when we get it, but you can't be 35 and tell me.
No, I understand that.
You're at the prime of your rap game. It doesn't make sense. All right. Just to close the conversation here. So, where do we go from here, and what's the way forward in empowering ourselves? Because I know, Linda, you're a creative. You've got you're creating a platform where you're bringing people of color together to empower ourselves and to create avenues for ourselves where we are the bosses of our own destinies. So in that area, how do you think we can move forward, and what are the ways we can do so?
Okay. I guess because we kind of need to rein back in, this was about Black women.
Yeah.
A big thing for me is people taking ownership. So, like my platform specifically is all about job creation in Black communities.
Yeah.
So, I think that, again, I go back to that whole point of being educated, and I don't necessarily mean traditional education with books, but basically taking ownership, I suppose, of your headspace. So there's this thing called Black consciousness, and I feel like it needs to extend to the Black consciousness of women. What that basically means is Black women need to prioritize a headspace that says I'm valuable, and because I'm valuable, I can chase these things. I'm worthy of pursuing the very best kind of life that I can have. So the way to go about doing that is through I suppose investing in self-esteem. For me, that's a big thing, especially I'm pretty educated as far as the traditional education goes in academics and that kind of thing, but I think all Black women need to instill in themselves a value for themselves that will allow them to feel, I suppose, be confident enough to pursue the things that will take them where they want to go.
What about you, Jocelyn?
For me, I think it's more about having that conversation with people about it. So parents, let's say friends or community, about ways to sort of help people move forward from where they are. So in terms of Black women and empowerment, I'd say that we sort of need that support from our own communities. Yeah. We like that. I think community, we sort of tend to go against each other a lot. So if you haven't got that support from your own community, how can you sort of move forward? Yeah. Black men have this thing where, not all of them, some Black men, they tend to sort of, how can you say,
shut us down.
Shut Black women down. Yeah. So if you haven't got the right support or the right friendship group, it's not going to enable you to sort of move forward. Yeah. So we need to support our own in order to get support from the other wider community. That's the Western community.
Yeah, so definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And Sarah?
Support is a great thing. I have 3 things to say. You're kind, you're smart.
Yes.
I think empowerment does start from the community.
Yes.
You have to start it within the community. Yeah. But you have to change the community's mindset to be able to support these new ideas. Because if people are still thinking in the traditional sense about everything, you're not really going to get anywhere.
No.
Yeah. They're just going to think you're trying to swim against the current and be different, and they're not going to like that. It's almost like you're being defiant against what everybody else is doing.
I think a big thing as well with that whole community thing that you guys have talked about is sisterhood.
Yes.
Like Black women are to each other like, I think we are the best way for us to lift each other up is when we start lifting ourselves.
Yes.
Like I think typically Black women are known to have contention between each other. We're always stereotypically seen as fighting.
Judgmental kind of
literally.
thing.
And as someone who has like a really great group of girlfriends, I just think that when you see role models in your friends, that's really powerful.
It is.
And it teaches you something. Exactly.
I was just about to hit on that point. There's a Michael Jackson song, "Man in the Mirror." There's a lyric where it says, "To make a change, I'm going to start with a man in the mirror." So I think the change has to start within, because when you are growing internally, people around you are growing as well, and you're able to attract people with the same mentality. Because I can say here that all 4 of us are we've got a group of girlfriends that we're all together, and we all have the same goal at the end of the day, and we all uplift each other and support each other's ideas. And I think it's very important to have that sisterhood you were talking about. Sisterhood is important because, let's say, we've not necessarily seen our parents, our mums have that, because there's always that bickering, that backbiting that's going on within the Black community. And I think with the new generation that's coming up, let's say for my sisters, when she sees me and my girls go out, she's like, "Oh, you guys are having fun." She sees that as, let's say, an encouragement that women can actually be friends without having any negative motive behind it.
And there's space for everyone to succeed.
It's amazing.
And it's important because I think we all have our own lane and we all have our own journeys that we're
You gotta support each other. Just because someone else does this doesn't mean
I don't think any of us here are competitive with each other.
No.
The thing is, our destinies are all different.
I feel like if you feel that way, there's something
wrong with you.
seriously
You're in the wrong
with you.
circle.
You're in the wrong
You need to remove yourself
So,
out of it.
and
Yeah.
you need to go find not even another friendship group, but
you
you
need to go and find
yourself
yourself.
first.
Yeah, figure it out what it is
because
that's troubling you.
Because you can't. That's not normal to feel like
No.
that. About your
You shouldn't
about
compete
your
with
own
your
friends.
friends.
Yeah.
If it's like
Yeah.
people on TV, come on, we can all do it.
Yeah.
But about people within your own circle, home or community, that's a bit.
You should be proud of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You should
Support
encourage
them.
it and
Yeah.
just be like, and if you're not doing what you want to do, that should push you.
Push
do
you
it.
as well.
Yeah.
And you can always ask for help.
Yeah.
Use
More
that
than
as
happily,
motivation,
yeah.
not
Not something that's seen as a
Don't bring
setback.
each other down, but
don't bring
uplift each other.
down. Exactly. I
Yeah.
think it's important when there's love in a group of people. It's important where like you see each and every one of your friends flourishing in different aspects of their life, even if let's not say all of us here are educated or if we're not, but when you see, let's say your friend is getting married or your friend is opening up a business, it's like, okay, it may not be the goal you want to achieve, but it's a goal that they want to
be
achieve.
happy for them.
And just to be happy,
Yeah.
just to have that genuine happiness
Yeah.
for other people's success is so important. And that's something, that's my message to end the video, is the fact that we need to start surrounding ourselves with like-minded people.
That's right.
It is important to surround yourself with like-minded people, but before you do that, you have to change your mentality first. Don't go into a group of people who you aspire to be with some poison in you, because then you go and poison everybody else.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure you, when you go into a space, that you go there open, clean up all your negativity, and then you're able to open a space to
A positive
grow,
space,
a positive space to grow and learn from others.
Instead of coming with all these preconceived ideas
Yeah.
And
and
trying
what
to
you wanna-
change the group.
what you
or
want to get from the people. It's
Yeah,
almost like you're
exactly.
just there to take and not actually
To give
you
anything in-
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like one bad onion can ruin the whole salad.
Amen.
That's what I say.
That's true. That's true.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. You can leave a comment down below on this conversation. Let us know what you think about African women empowerment, and we'll see you for our next video. Thank you.
Exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.